welcome to another episode of the vlogs. We've got some lovely weather today. What an opportunity to be down here at Leander Club. We've got the British rowing trials today, and later on hopefully I'll be able to go over some of the 2K results. But as we're progressing back from a little bit of an illness of a tooth infection, we're going to progress into some more high intensity, which is what we're doing today. So we've got 2x1K with some rain on the lens to do, so I'm going to just take you guys through that, how I'll approach that, how I'll warm up. But first things first, time to get on the roller. But pretty much every single morning, no matter what the workout is, I will get on the foam roller, and for me, rolling out the back just makes everything a little bit more comfortable, a little bit in the glutes and then a little bit on the hamstrings as well. But if you do foam rolling enough, then you can figure out which parts of the body work best for you to roll out. Some people don't do it at all, they prefer other methods of stretching, but for me foam rolling is one of the easiest ways to get that little bit looser. And there are actually some studies that suggest doing some foam rolling in certain ways can actually help produce a bit more power. But I think those studies still need a bit more research, but I still find it really easy just to loosen some muscles in the back and the glutes really easily, really quickly, and that's why I do it. But like I said, I'll do this every morning before we go out in the water, before we do weights, before we go on the erg, and today is no different. And after this, I'll let you know what I'm going to do as a warm-up for the 2x1K on these ergs over here. Oh yeah! And we've made it on to the erg. I've put a long sleeve on to make sure it's a little bit easier to get warm, as well as when I do get warm, it's a little bit easier to stay warm. And that's a big thing about doing anything high intensity, is the warm up, or when you are going, especially for that first piece or first part of the piece, you want to be warm and it doesn't want to be a shock to the body. So what I'm going to do on the erg just now is about a K 1500 of just moving. So it'll be a really slow split, a really sort of low rate, and it's just to get the body moving, a little bit of a wake up, and then do the same distance again at my UT2, so my steady state split. So for example, I would want to go around 215 for the first bit, the first 1500, first K, and then I want to go 150 for the second part. And by the end of that, I should be pretty sweaty. And then roughly, that'll give me 20 minutes before I start the piece. And then I want to do a minute at the pace I want to hit in the 1Ks at some point. So that should get me fired up, should get me ready and warm. And then after that, it's a case of staying warm, staying sweaty, staying ready to go for the actual piece itself. So I'm gonna hop on this erg, already on it, tie my feet in, get the screen ready, and float up and down the erg for a little bit, and then get onto my UT2. So I'll see you probably after the minute at pace to see how that went. Oh yeah! And that is why you do a minute, or why you do a longer piece before the piece. Oh, it stings. So pretty sweaty now, warmed up. Now it's just a chance, or a case, staying warm, a couple of bursts, not too much, then we get on to the 1Ks. So let's get to it. First piece, felt okay. So that's a little bit slower than 2k pace. That's what I would roughly do for the first K. Then we're going to try and go just a little bit faster on this next one. Watching the heart rate, seeing how it feels, so we can kind of assess how our body's reacting to some more high intensity. But now, keeping on moving in the rest period, and then we go again, hopefully at least 0.1 faster on this next one without emptying the tank. So let's get to it. And that one felt a little bit better. Warm up is very, very important, especially doing something quite early in the morning. But looks like the body is reacting well to the intensity. Just a matter of getting used to being in the pain cave a bit more. So that last 600 was pretty stingy, but could keep pushing and keep pushing. So that's what it's, even though it might hurt, you gotta just keep pushing until it gets to zero. So now we've got some guys here that aren't doing trials doing the 2K right here. Oh yeah. And we've finished here some of the 2Ks for the people that haven't done trials. It's always interesting to watch people do 2Ks. when you're not doing one, because you think it's like, oh, that looks like a good idea, and then you see people on the floor and you're like, oh, maybe it isn't actually. But the 2Ks in Boston at the British Rowing Trials will be starting very soon, so hopefully once the results come out, we can have a little bit of a chat to see how those guys do, and a little bit of insight into the scores that some of the guys do, to see what either you might have to compare to or want to aim towards. But now, as always after a session, you have to go fuel up, because remember, food is fuel. And we've made it out of fueling up, because remember, food is fuel, and it's very important after not only high intensity workouts but any workout in general. And still waiting on some of the results back from the 2Ks at the British Rowing Trials in Boston, Lincolnshire, but some of the scores have been pretty big. There is a 5:42 in there, absolute savage. But there will be, I'll go over a few more of the scores. I'm not going to mention any names because some people might not want their name to be mentioned, but just I'm going to see about the scores. So hopefully soon the scores will be out, and then we'll kind of go through, and then I'll kind of look at those scores, and then, like I said before, talk about the targets that you might want to have if you're trying to achieve a certain level, whether it's under 23 or senior level, etc. Because I know the targets for the under 23, the cutoffs for the under 23s for senior men, for FISU, are all there. But realistically, if you've got, say, 10 people in under 23s going this certain speed, then maybe the cutoff is not so good to be aiming for. You might have to aim for a bit faster. But another little bit, we're going to walk yam and get on to the results. Oh yeah. And we've made it back to the house, and we have the scores from the British Rowing Trials on the 2K. Like I said, we're not going to go through individual names or through each and every single score, but just to give an idea of what you might need to aim for if, say, you want to do under 23s, or if you want to challenge for the top spot on the erg, then we'll kind of go through that. So the fastest time was under 5:43, which is absolutely insane, absolutely outrageous. And a big thing probably is more impressive than that. Some years when I've done trials, maybe 5 or so, 10 or so people are under 6 minutes, but this year there are 40 people under 6 minutes. And so what I've been experiencing, and what we're talking to a lot of people who have spent a lot more time in rowing than me, is that 6 minutes is definitely a big goal, a big marker for people to pass. But now for people stepping on and pushing the sport, 6 minutes is no longer sort of that big milestone that it once was. It seems to be moving down, almost closer to 5:50 rather than 6 minutes. So people under 5:50, you have 5 people under there. So that seems to be the new sort of barrier for people to get under, rather than that sub 6 minutes barrier where 40 people are under there. So it used to be that the first sheet that came out, the first sort of 50 people would be above 6. But now they're pretty much below 6 minutes, which really sort of just shows how much the sport and how much everything's moving on from what it used to be. So training stepping on, fitness is stepping on, science has progressed to let people do more, and just getting all of that together. And as well as that, just having more people go under a certain score sort of opens up the floodgates for other people to do that score. Like when people used to say going a sub 4 minute mile was impossible, when one person did it, it seemed to just give people the confidence to say, yep, it's easy to do. Not quite as easy as that, but that's what ended up happening with a lot more people, and then this 4-minute mile marker was no longer that big milestone, and people in university and high school are even doing that now. But what score would you say is like, okay, if I can do that score, I'm in the mix for the under 23s? Well, there are, like I said, a couple under 6 minutes, and then there's a few under 6:10, or quite a few under 6:10. And then as you get closer to 6:10, there are a lot more. So I would say that low 6 minutes would be a good number to be at for the under 23s. The cutoff is a lot higher than the senior men's cutoff. Senior men's cutoff is 6:05. The under 23s is that little bit higher. So, but I would still say 6:05, even though that's the cutoff for the senior men, I would aim at that for a under 23. But obviously that depends on you as an individual. So for me, I would aim at that, but I am taller and I am heavier, so it will be that bit easier for me to hit those scores. If you are a bit lighter, a bit smaller, then you might have to adjust that a little bit and say, okay, I need to just make the cutoff, but then I'm going to demonstrate how good I am on the water, better than those bigger guys or better than those faster guys on the rowing machine. Because of course, rowing is a rowing sport, and it doesn't always come down to the 2K. But it's really good to see so many people going pretty quick on the rowing machine at British Rowing Trials this year. And it is also involving the senior men's squad, the British Rowing team. So getting them to Boston and then mixing them with everybody, it gives people the opportunity to experience, okay, if I'm, say, erging next to an Olympic champion, I can see how they warm up, I can see how they approach their 2K, I can see how they actually do the 2K themselves, and it gives people an insight on what it can really take to win the World Championships or even win an Olympics. So it's really cool to have that as well, where an Olympic year the senior team do trial at this first trial, and going forward for the year there's different trials as well for Olympics. But that's a whole nother video. And it will be it for today's video, Yam Squad. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. So that little bit of an insight into the scores themselves. And as always, Yam Squad, remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button, and I'll see you next week.